As the NBA season approaches, last year's strongest competitors are getting plenty of media attention, and it's justified. They have some of the most talented players in the world whom are poised to once again compete for an NBA title. But every season, a few teams creep up from the middle of the pack and surprise everyone. We believe that this season, one of those teams could be the Toronto Raptors, and here's why. The Raptors are coming off an almost peculiar season. They finished 41-41, but were far from mediocre. In fact, the Raptors ranked right near or at the bottom of the league in some critical stats. The Raptors were amongst the worst team in the league in field goal percentage differential, three-point percentage, assist differential, and turnover differential. When you hear those numbers, you're probably wondering how the heck they won half their games. And the answer is that they ranked right at the top of the league in categories such as steals and offensive rebounds, giving their team extra possessions and more opportunities to win games. To make it simple, the Raptors found themselves in slugfests night in and night out. They used length, athleticism, and tenacity to constantly make their opponents uncomfortable. The pace of play of Raptors games was painfully slow. Instead of employing shooters, the Raptors fielded lineups with multiple forwards like Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and Scotty Barnes all on the floor at the same time. Together, the trio was able to constantly switch on defense, disrupt passing lanes, and create tough matchups on the defensive end of the floor. And when the team was starving for shooters and skill players, management went out and traded for another defensive-minded player in Jakob Poeltl at the trade deadline. Unfortunately, employing so many players in this mold made them incredibly inefficient on offense, particularly from the three-point line. Then in the offseason, they lost their leader and best perimeter scorer, Fred VanVleet, to free agency. To an outsider, it would seem that the team should be even worse this upcoming year, but that's not the case. In terms of roster makeup, the biggest difference between this year's squad and last year's squad is the presence of Dennis Schroder. Schroder's proven to be a fierce competitor and a winner throughout his career. He started for the Lakers in the conference finals last season and then led Germany to the championships at the FIBA World Cup during the summer. He oozes leadership and will prove to be the right fit for a Raptors team that's best chance at winning will be to stifle their opponents and grind out wins. The fact is, even though he might not be as good a shooter as VanVleet, Schroder will prove to be a better fit on the roster. Since his departure, reports have circulated that Fred VanVleet was quite selfish during his final year in Toronto, which isn't that hard to believe. As a veteran on a huge contract year, his biggest priority was to put up numbers that he could leverage to earn himself a big-time deal in free agency. And he most certainly managed to do so, locking in a contract worth over $40 million per year with the Houston Rockets. Aside from the new point guard, the team's also employing a new head coach, Darko Rajakovic. Last year, Nick Nurse seemed to lose the locker room. His veterans seemed to clash with the veterans, and his team lacked cohesion. Nurse also couldn't find innovative ways to operate his team's offense without perimeter-centric stars. Rajakovic might be a first-time coach, but he's talking like someone who'll be the perfect fit for the job considering the personnel. Instead of breaking apart the roster, the Raps are going to count on Rajakovic to utilize the pieces he has in place to become at least a middle-of-the-pack team on the offensive side of the ball. If they can just manage to do that, then they should be an above-average basketball team this season. Rajakovic's philosophies are rooted in the international style of basketball, which are being utilized by more teams across the NBA. Lots of cuts, movement, and passes are utilized in order to get players higher percentage looks. And even though that sounds great in theory, one could wonder how such a similar lineup could play a completely new style. But the truth is, this lineup isn't that similar to last year's lineup. Keep in mind that Jakob Poeltl wasn't acquired by the Raptors until the deadline. Once he was brought on the roster, the team went on a 15-11 run going into the playoff game. This year, without Fred VanVleet in the lineup, the Raps will be putting the ball in the hands of Dennis Schroder, Jakob Poeltl, and third-year player Scotty Barnes much more often. Other wing players such as Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., amongst others, will provide lengthy and effective wing players that bring a lot to the table on both ends of the floor. On top of that, a healthy Otto Porter Jr. and rookie sharpshooter Grady Dick could help improve the team's shooting from one season ago. The style that Darko Rajakovic wants to deploy will be somewhat reminiscent of the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets use a lot of bigger players who can pass, shoot, and play defense in multiple ways to create mismatches. Obviously, without a superstar like Nikola Jokic, the Raptors aren't expected to have the league's best offense, but the players they have in place do have some unique characteristics. Scottie Barnes, for one, is one of the most intriguing young players in the NBA. After winning the Rookie of the Year award in 2022, he followed with a slightly disappointing sophomore season. But we think he's going to take a massive leap forward and show why he's one of the most exciting young players in the world right now. His shooting's his biggest weakness, but at 6'8", he brings elite athleticism, vision, and ball handling. His abilities allow him to play almost any position on the floor, and watching how Rajakovic utilizes him will be something worth keeping our eyes on. Hurdle's expected to take a step forward as well. He's one of the best defensive centers in the league, and the Raptors believe that they can utilize him as a facilitator in the middle of the court as a major part of their game plan. As mentioned, finding players with size and vision has proven to be a winning formula for the Denver Nuggets. One of the biggest question marks for the Raptors, however, will be the looming expiration of a few of the team's best players' contracts. First and foremost, Pascal Siakam is eligible for a supermax deal and has incentives to sign with Toronto. However, since his position is so similar to rising star Scottie Barnes, management wants to see how the two can play together before offering him the deal he desires. Siakam is one of the most underrated stars in the league who loads the stat sheet with points, rebounds, and assists, as well as some of the greatest stars in the world right now. But both Siakam and Barnes are below-average three-point shooters, which last year caused spacing issues on offense. Meanwhile, OG Anunoby has an expiring contract as well and is one of the most coveted young forwards in the league due to his two-way talents and versatility. Though the Raptors want Anunoby, he's reluctant to extend the team since he believes that he could get a massive contract offer if he reaches free agency. Anunoby also plays a similar position as Barnes and Siakam, but of the three, he's by far the best spot-up shooter. However, in Nick Nurse's offense last year, that actually proved to be a reason why he had the ball in his hands less. Since Barnes and Siakam have deficits at the three-point line, Anunoby is often forced into the role of spot-up shooter, standing in the corner to create space for his teammates. With free agency ahead, he's definitely going to want the ball in his hands more, and it'll be another point of emphasis to watch for once the season gets underway. With all that being said, Darko Rajakovic has most definitely got his hands full in his first year as a head coach in the NBA, but he has some intriguing pieces at his disposal as he looks to build a new system north of the border. And we think that the Raptors are quickly going to regain their reputation as a team to be feared as they establish a new identity for the upcoming era. What do you guys think? Are the Raptors being overlooked, or will another team that isn't getting attention step up and shock us during the 2023-24 season? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more sports news and insights.